Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I am really happy to introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Lisa Baker. And we're going to talk a little bit today about a fantastic group that we started together and a summit that we launched a little while back. But first, I would love to Lisa, I would love for you to just tell our listeners who you are, what you do as far as your profession goes, and just to give them
Sure.
context. Yeah.
Yeah. So to get super formal about it, I am Dr. Lisa K. Baker, PhD, geropsychologist, dementia coach. Yeah, but most of my clients call me Dr. B or just Lisa, whatever is fine. Um, yeah, I spend most of my work life supporting families who are walking the road of dementia.
Nice. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what a geropsychologist is?
hmm So I'm a clinical psychologist. So I have a PhD in clinical psychology, but a geropsychologist is someone who specializes in older adults, which it might be slightly depressing to know that that designation starts at age 60. That feels really too close for comfort.
Yes.
But gero, like geriatric, so just geropsychologist is someone who specializes in older adults. And so that's what I focused my clinical studies in.
Fantastic. And why would a family, this is good because I haven't had a geropsychologist on yet. And you are just the perfect person to kind of plant the seed for folks as
Mhm.
far as why would somebody want to, or why would they consider meeting with a geropsychologist? What would be a good reason for them to seek out a geropsychologist?
I think the specialized training in the later phases of life, um, just having a lot more sensitivity to the transitions that happen in later life. So, whether it's going through retirement and, maybe kids leaving home and empty nesting and, just the change in identity that comes with those kinds of changes, having to shift into a caretaking role. Maybe, I think for a lot of people, they're in their 60s, 70s, even 50s when they have to start maybe caretaking for a parent the first time, or then, there's a lot of health changes later in life. And then a lot of people are really not so prepared for the loss that comes in the later stages of life, whether it's through death or through just changes that happen, whether it's to independence or mobility or lifestyle or,
Mhm.
friend groups or whatever. Like there's just so much change that's happening. And I think the same way, like, a lot of people don't transition to a geriatrician. They just think like, well, my this has been my regular doctor forever. I think they miss out on a lot of the specialized knowledge, and like there really just are a lot of changes that are specific to that age range. And so for me, I have spent a ton of time specifically with dementia and end of life. And I think there's a lot of really important training that people who don't specialize in this area, they just haven't had.
I
So
yeah, I really like your comparison. I hadn't thought of it that way or used that example of just like switching from your primary care physician to a physician that specializes in aging or aging complications because they're really that really is a specialty niche for a reason. So
yeah.
I've met a lot of clients that have said to me they've had a therapist or they've worked with a psychologist in the past, but may not that professional, as well trained as they are, may not have the experience at all. It's a whole new
hmm
world, isn't it? When you're um,
and yeah, and I think it makes it easy to miss a lot of the subtleties. I think especially when it comes to like diagnosing or catching
mhm,
dementia, um,
yeah.
you know, I think I've heard so many people say where it's like, they're still just going to their same doctor they've always been to, and they're like, oh, you're fine, like that's just normal aging, when
Yeah.
they've never had a class, never, just never like really learned that that's not, and so like I had this experience today where I was with a family member, and for me, alarm bells were going off immediately that I know were not going off for anyone else around them because of what I do all the time. And so, something that seems like that would be very easy to dismiss, or just seems like, oh, well, that just happens to everyone. We're just getting older, just knowing it's like, no, that's
Mhm.
not just because you're getting older. That's not something that happens to everyone. Like, we actually need to mark down, today was the first time you and I had this conversation, because I see a big change that to you maybe doesn't seem like one. And I
Mm.
think that that's very, very easy to miss, especially if regular in the regular doctor's office, if they're never going beyond like the MMSE, like a standard screening tool. Well, it's easy to show up, quote, fine for a
Mhm.
really long time with that, and it can make you as a caregiver feel crazy, because you're like, well, I know something is different. I know something has changed. Like, they keep maxing out on this score. Like, that's only going to catch like a huge change
Yeah.
when you see the little steps coming, and so to have someone who can walk you through preparing for,
Mhm.
even these subtle changes, and recognizing that they are changes, and validating that like you're not crazy, like what you see is actually happening.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Knowing what to, yep, I love that, Lisa. Thank you. Because I think that so many people, I hear that all the time too.
mhm.
So many people, I heard it today actually. A client came in and was talking about her mom who has normal age. She was talking about her normal aging memory impairment. And it was this educational moment for sure to help people understand that it's not normal to lose your memory, that there
Mhm.
are so many things that can be at play and how important it is to screen that out. And um so tell I so I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm really curious. I always like to ask people, how what is your personal experience with dementia? How did it's such a small niche field for
Mhm.
so many healthcare providers that I'm just really curious. Why do you get fed by working with people who have memory impairment in their families?
Mhm. I think, I mean, for me, it always comes back to my grandmother who had Alzheimer's. And, just I remember being a teen and kind of recognizing that like grandma's acting funny and she's doing very strange things. And then, um, my family is from Finland. They opted to send her back to Finland to her hometown, where the cares, state medicine is just different, like where she could receive good care, in a language, like she didn't speak English. And so, sending her back to where she could receive care in her language, um, and just the final visits that I was able to make to her, that always really left an impression on me. And then I think just combined with my parents always modeling like love and care of the elderly in our community, that just made it was so natural. Like, that
Mm.
isn't what I went to, like when I went into graduate school, that isn't what I was planning to do. But just found the first time I was in a geriatric psychiatric unit, just found myself so drawn. And so later it was like, well, why was I surprised that that became my passion when I look at my life and the way that I was raised and
Yeah,
the grandmother that I loved? It's like it all just was such a perfect fit,
I love that.
and I think that everybody has like their calling and their, like, the thing that lights them up and the thing that they can handle that other people look at and they're like, how do you do that all the time?
Yeah,
And so like, I know I can't work with children who are in pain, like that's something that I can't do all day.
yeah.
But I am so honored and privileged to be able to walk with people through the scariest things at the end of life, just being with a family as they go through this hard time, and knowing that like you're willing to walk towards the pain with them. That
Mm.
I don't, other than feeling like it's a calling. I don't know how or why, like,
I love
specifically beyond that. Yeah.
I love how you said that, being willing to walk through the pain with people. That's I appreciate you saying that, because so often, as a I'm a therapist, you're a geropsychologist. I think that people often want the pain to just go away, and they want the magic pill, or they want to not have to look at it or feel it or experience it. And so that was just a beautiful way of talking about the work that you
Yeah.
do. And yeah.
And I think it's different than a lot of other therapy, that I do with other people where, they come and you expect, like the problem to change or to go away even, and to resolve, but that this isn't necessarily, that the dementia will progress and that the end point is death. And so being able to make that very heavy and increasingly difficult experience more manageable for someone, like, that just feels like such a gift. Um, and
Absolutely.
I think that makes it possible to just keep doing it.
Mhm. So one of the reason that I brought you on today is because I really wanted to share with our listeners about this resource that you and I have created together, and just share the story behind it, because I think it's a really neat story, how we came together and why we created the group that we created and what came of that. And
Mhm.
um, so I'll do a quick little introduction to let folks know that oh gosh, Lisa, how long ago was it that we launched the summit? Was it
That was November 2019.
November 2019? Man, a lot has happened since then.
Yes.
It's not that long ago in some ways, and a lifetime ago in others.
Mhm.
So let's start at the beginning. You and I met through it was a Facebook group, wasn't it?
For
We're both,
therapists,
we're
yeah.
both therapists in a Facebook group. I don't know if I noticed a post that you made or you noticed a post that I made, but it was related to aging, and I think specifically dementia. And what
Yeah,
I
and
remember, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like you said before, it's a very small niche.
Yes.
Like, there's
Yeah.
not a lot of people in it.
No. So what I remember seeing, I think I remember seeing something you posted, and I just lit up because of the thousands of therapists, in our country. There's such a small percentage that work with families who are caring for someone with dementia. And yeah, and I want to clarify for our audience, you live in Florida and
Mhm,
I live in Washington State. So
mhm.
we're at the opposite ends of the country too. Which I always envision. I don't know, this sounds really corny, I know, but I envision us hugging, the
Mhm,
country. We got one on
mhm.
each end. And so we got to talking, and what I was looking for was, I was dreaming of a platform. So in my work, what I notice is that individuals, caregivers specifically, are maxed out. They're stressed out. They have a lack of access to resources. They're not experts in navigating caregiving and what that looks like.
No.
And there's so many areas, that come with that, whether we're talking about self-care, or we're talking about caring for our loved one, or we're talking about understanding the different types of dementias, or we're talking about challenging behaviors. Or how to pay for care, or I mean, there's so many factors that come with this area that, is kind of my vision to somehow get information to caregivers. And now this was, just so everybody has the context, this is before COVID, this is pre-COVID. So, our thoughts were that caregivers don't have the ability to go to a conference and meet people or take all these
Mhm,
classes and learn. And so that had been swirling around in my mind. And then I'll let you talk about what got you started in thinking about this idea.
mhm. Yeah, I think just same, just wanting things to be accessible to
Yeah.
caregivers, that like it's too much to like I had attended an in-person conference, but what that requires of the caregivers, needing someone to look after their person with dementia, maybe needing to find coverage, and just then the cost of getting out there, maybe a hotel, maybe a flight, who knows what. And my thinking is for caregivers, like if you're gonna get away, please don't go to a conference.
Yeah.
Like I know that like that conference will benefit you, but like you need like a vacation, not like an educational vacation.
Yeah.
So as good as they are, I just felt like it was asking too much.
Mhm.
And so, you know, why couldn't we offer something online, and free, like that there's not
Yes.
conference fees, and something that can live on. And so it also doesn't need to be like that minute that if you weren't free this weekend, then you missed out. Like it'll be there. And if you need to go back and watch it again or whatever. Or if you join our group today, you can still go watch, the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, and so I really just envision like just accessibility and really ultimately creating like a library
Yeah.
that would just have information on the things that come up the most often for
Yeah.
caregivers. And I know that when we were planning it, it's like, okay, what do you get asked all the time? Like, what do you wish you just had pamphlets? Just like, here, read this, here, read this, here, read this,
Yes.
and that started our topic list. I mean, and
Mhm.
I still wish that we could, add like another 100 to
Oh, yeah.
it.
Oh, man.
And at some point, we will, but yeah,
We
like
kind of
there's
are.
just,
Yeah, I mean, so what we did is we created an online summit, and Lisa, you did. I mean, I have to give so much kudos and credit to you because I am not technically savvy, and you're kind of this master at understanding all of these tools and resources. So Lisa did
we're
a lot of the back end support on this. But really, what we did was we started reaching out across the country to connect with other folks like ourselves, professionals that really have a heart and passion for working with people who have dementia or their families. And so, um, one of my favorite parts about this whole summit was the amount of people that I got to meet and how
Mhm.
eye-opening it was that there are others, like us
Yes.
that are passionate and are educated and super intelligent. It was so refreshing to learn from other professionals too, instead of being the one that's always, teaching or training. And um, so maybe you can share a little bit about the logistics of it. We had how many days we did it, how many speakers we had, and
Yeah, we met for over the course of 2 weeks, and we had 2 or 3 speakers each day, and in total, we had 24, like, kind of conference length presentations where and the nice thing about that was, just so that there could be some sense of being a little more comprehensive on a topic and, kind of a deep dive um, and just a broad range of types of professionals and
yeah.
subjects. And like I said, I
Oh,
wish, it'd be possible to add like another 100,
oh yeah.
um, but it's been such a helpful resource. When we were talking earlier about this, like I still refer clients to specific presentations all the time because it's like, it's just a shorthand. Like, let's not use our session time talking through this when I know there's a really good presentation, on, aging in place or,
Mhm.
using music with your loved one or,
Yeah, I love that.
you
Let's
know,
so yeah, let's talk about some of the presenters and presentations that we had the privilege of hosting. And I want to add too, we I feel like we really went above and beyond. We not only had these presentations to offer to the attendees of the summit, but we also were able to interview those presenters after their presentation was done. And so we had a live Q&A
mhm.
session with them. And I think that was really cool to be able to just talk to these amazing people and ask questions and allow our participants to ask questions as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think we haven't actually said what the group is called, what the summit was called.
Well, let's roll it out. I need a drum roll here. I don't have the the tech sound crew that I wish I had, but so go ahead, Lisa, do the honor.
So we called it Get in the Lifeboat, because that is what we really pictured people doing, that you're drowning, maybe you're flailing, you're sputtering, you're feeling like your head is going underwater, and that there's a lifeboat full of people that want to reach out and pull you in and help you get to safety.
Yeah, I love that name. I think that just captures so much of the spirit of what, we were looking for.
Hmm.
Um, so what we did is we created a Facebook group called Get in the Lifeboat. And that week in November, 2 weeks in November that we hosted the summit, people just joined the group. That's how they got access to the summit, was to join this group. And
Hmm.
so over the course of those 2 weeks, we had, like Lisa said, you said 24 speakers total, or 24 presentations total. We talked to, oh gosh, we learned from MDs, neuropsychologists, of course, therapists and geropsychologists. We talked to nurses. We just had a huge variety of folks that came on to share their
Hmm.
expertise. Some names that you folks might even recognize. Do you want to share any of those names, or would you like me to?
Sure. We had Dr. Natalie Edmonds from Care Blazers,
Mhm.
Vicki Nolan Fitch from Dementia with Grace.
Mhm.
Personal to me was Dr. Angelo Domingo, who is a neuropsychologist and one of my closest colleagues, who did kind of a brain 101. And that's been a presentation that I've sent people to over and over again, to just understand the basics of what's happening in the brain so that you can understand why your person with dementia does the things that they do.
Yeah, that was a fantastic one. I also share that presentation. We had Gail Wetherill, the dementia
The
nurse.
dementia nurse.
Yeah,
Hmm.
she was fantastic. You know who else we had that I was really excited about, that is not a dementia specialist, but he, Brad Yates, came
Hmm.
on, and he is an EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping
Hmm.
expert. And so it was a really fun presentation. He was helping caregivers learn how to manage their stress through tapping. And so that was pretty fabulous as well. We also had a
Hmm.
sandwich generation expert. We had a long distance caregiving person, present on
Hmm.
long distance. Laura Smothers Chu. She's kind of out there in
Hmm.
the dementia world too.
Yeah. Oh, and what I love about it is that all these people, like, they're literally writing the books,
Yeah.
creating the classes, and so just introducing the audience to all these other resources too. Like, you came to this place where we're offering a resource, but it's connecting you to so much more, and that's been our mission along the way, is to keep sharing the resources that we find, so that people can kind of really kit out their tool belt, so that they have the skills and tools that they need to make it through.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. So we really wanted to come on this episode and let folks know about this Facebook group that is alive and well. It's again, it's called Get in the Lifeboat, and really, so I should back up and say those presentations that we hosted during the summit, all of our presenters were so generous and kind. They allowed us to keep those presentations up in the Facebook group. So if anybody is interested in looking through and finding um, any of those speakers or specialists, topics, I mean, there are topics about, oh, you mentioned, how to age in place in your home. Whether or not I did one on how do you know when it's time to move your loved one? You did one on spirituality and dementia. We have a few on challenging behaviors or lots on self-care for the caregiver. There was a lot of variety of
Yeah.
those topics.
Yep. And the other one that I did was on guilt and grief.
Yeah.
And I think not a week goes by, definitely not even a work day goes by when, I mean, those are such prevalent emotions, and so it helped me a lot too, to like kind of be forced to put all my thoughts down in one place. But it's been a very helpful resource to be able to point, especially like they're my words, my own clients too,
I love
like here's like a little kind of cheat sheet on that.
Lisa, I at the support group that I run yesterday, I shared that they wanted to talk about guilt and grief, and it was perfect because I just directed them right to the Facebook group and they were able to get in. So it's under, is it still called units? Or
They
is that
changed it. Facebook is always changing it, and that's annoying. It's called guides
guide?
now.
Okay.
So it's
I
under the
couldn't remember.
guide.
Units was the first,
Yeah, it
anyway.
used to be units, now it's guides.
Guides. So if you go to Get in the Lifeboat Facebook group, we have a couple questions for you to answer to be allowed in the group because it is a private closed group. Once you are in there, yeah, you go to the guide section and bam, you will see all of the presentations that we hosted during that summit.
Well, and not only the summit, but since then, we've
Yeah.
tried, as life has permitted. The pandemic has been a little bit of an interrupter, but we also try to add, either you or I adds another video at least once a week on some topic that has either come up with our clients, or members of the group are always free to ask some question, or if we see something coming up in conversation, and that I love that it's grown into a place of peer support. So it's not only kind of the expert support that was our goal to create a library for, but that there's still peer support going on. And so a lot of times, like, the best resource you have are other caregivers who are walking the same road, or who have dealt with what you're dealing with, and who know, how to point you to information and, share tips and tricks. But that we also want it to be a living, breathing thing. And so, if there's something specific that anybody in the group wants to know about, they can just post the question, and you or I will try to address it, in our weekly Monday mini video series. And so I think that's also been a really helpful resource to create.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so just to expand on that Monday mini, it is either Dr. Lisa or I hopping in there and we usually address a topic that's been brought up in the group. Sometimes people are asking specific questions, or sometimes it's kind of a more general theme that we're seeing. So we just have a short little conversation about it, really. And then and we're sometimes live, so then if folks have questions or comments or anything, we can interact and talk with them as well. So that's been really valuable. We've had such a variety of those Monday minis, and we save those as well, so you can find those also in that tab in the group. And then I love what you were saying about this sweet community of support, because this was huge for Lisa and I when we were creating this group. We first and foremost wanted to get information out to the people that needed it. And we also really wanted people to feel connected. And so this was just a beautiful way to we know what life can be like for caregivers. If you are not able to hop on at 5 o'clock on Monday to watch, our Monday mini, it's going to be there for you at 2 in the morning if you want it. Or if you're able to get out for a walk, or if you're driving your car to an appointment, you can access and listen to these at any time. And that was a big part of it.
Well, and I think too, imagining, a caregiver going to a conference. I know when I go to conferences, like, I'm an introvert. I'm not automatically like making friends with all the people who are sitting around me and exchanging phone numbers and like, let's talk later. I pretty much don't talk to anybody, and especially if it's just a short, one day thing or
Mhm.
whatever. We loved the idea that with the Facebook group
Mhm.
that it does have that community aspect, and that people can just ask a question, and you don't have to go up to a microphone to ask like just the presenter, like that you actually get to poll the audience. Like when you don't get to do that at a conference, but that if you want to in the group, you can,
Yeah, I
that
love
there's
that.
possibility for interaction.
I love that piece. I'm always such a, I know many of us are a believer in more heads are better than one. And when we know that when we're stressed out and we can't see through the pain, or we can't see through the stress, um, that we have a community of people that have been through something similar or going through something similar, that we can bounce ideas off of or share our experience with. Sometimes people just post in there and say, I'm just having a hard time, and that's it, and we
And there's
get like
always so much
50,
love.
yeah, we get 50 hearts and hugs, and that can do so much for someone. And we just, you don't want to minimize the importance of, again, having that connection. So yeah, that there are, our group isn't giant huge. I mean, there are definitely other support groups on Facebook that are massive and giant, and they're fantastic. I kind of like that our group isn't super huge. I feel like people kind of can get to know each other a little better, and feel freer in sharing their experience and how things are going. So yeah. We also have people
Yeah.
from all over the world in this group, which is kind of fun. I was
Hmm.
surprised how many people
Yeah.
were able to find us. Do you, can you, you have access to the analytics? Name some other countries of folks that have been in
Oh,
that.
I haven't looked in a long time, but I remember at the time of the summit we had, I mean, primarily from the United States, but definitely Canada, Australia, you know, obviously more going to be more common in English speaking areas of the world, but the random here or there, India, France,
Love it.
Greece. Yeah.
It's just neat, again, to feel like we're connected with people from all over, and
Hmm.
that are going through similar
Yeah.
experience. So
Yeah, that I mean, dementia across cultures. I mean, of course there are going to be some differences, but I think the common, like the core emotional experience will still be common to across the board.
well, Lisa, thank you so much for hopping on here with me to just
Oh,
share
thank you for having me.
our experience. Yeah, with starting that group. It's kind of fun to replay those days. It
I know,
was
and like you
a lot of
said,
work. I can't believe we did it.
I know, and like when you think about when November 2019 was, it's really not that long ago, but like you said, like so much life has happened since then. So even as we've been talking, it's like it just feels like such a world away, from that launch time. So, but it's just been, for me, it's been such a great experience, and it's just been so wonderful. Like it's given us such a great excuse to like keep spending time together,
I
and I
love,
love you.
I love you too. And what's neat, I think, is we have formed such a bond, and we've never met. You and I have never met
Mhm,
in person.
mhm,
We live on different coasts, and someday maybe we will.
mhm,
But I feel like, obviously we have grown a beautiful connection with our shared passion
mhm.
around dementia. And so can you tell our listeners, how can they find you? And if you have anything to offer or share, I this is a great place to do that.
Sure. My just basic website, if anyone's wanting to connect with me, is lisakbaker.com. I think that's true. You fact check me, and if it's
Okay,
wrong, put the correct one in the show
I
notes.
will. I'll put it in
You
the show
tell you
notes.
tell how often I don't actually go to my own website. I'm trying to think. I'm like, is it Dr. Lisa K. Baker? Or is it just Lisa K. Baker?
I'm gonna
In
look.
any case, Um, but I am a geropsychologist and dementia coach. So I work with people one-on-one, but I also have a Zoom based virtual support group that people can find at soulharbor.support. So Soul Harbor is the name of that, because you want to take that lifeboat and you want to ride it straight into Soul Harbor, and which then I also have a devotional that goes along with that. And so if you're Christian and you look for, some spiritual support, that's called Put On Your Life Vest. So there's a theme across the board. I like the theme.
I love the theme. Again, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so I love the Florida beachy
Yes,
theme. And it is lisakbaker.com. I
there you
double
go. Thank
checked.
you. Thank you,
Good
my
job.
love.
Oh, well, thank you, my friend. And I am sure that, or at least I hope folks that might be interested in looking for an online support group, check us out on Get in the Lifeboat.
Yes, absolutely. You're welcome. You're welcome to come. Everyone, climb aboard.
I'm aboard. All right. Take care, everyone.